So we're here with the founders of Certus AI, straight from San Francisco all the way to Paul. So I think it's good to just introduce yourselves, quick intro, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Gurveer Singh, CEO and co-founder of Certus AI.
I'm Adam, co-founder and CRO at Certus.
Isaac, co-founder and CTO.
Damn.
I'd like to know what inspired the name?
Okay, well, to be honest, we didn't actually give it much thought, but he came up with the name, so maybe you should.
Basically what I did is I went into ChatGPT, I said what has a few amounts of syllables and is like 5 letters. Certus came about.
Fair enough.
But the meaning behind it is that certus in Latin means certainty, and what we're providing to our customers is certainty in their business. So we thought it was a fitting name for the software.
I think what would be really cool is to tell the people what essentially is the business that you guys started.
Yeah.
And then we can get into where you guys actually came from, which is actually awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I can say what Certus is today. Basically, restaurants in the US, UK, and Canada lose about $100 billion a year just from missed phone calls and other phone inefficiencies that come with it, like multiple people calling at the same time, staff not having the time to actually pick up the phone. And so what Certus is, it's an AI voice agent for these restaurants that will answer every single phone call, take orders, process deliveries, book reservations, and we do this by integrating with their tech stack. So think their point of sale system or their reservation system like a Toast or an OpenTable. And so if you call up a restaurant using Certus and you want to place an order for delivery, you will be able to place your order with a human-like agent. They will take your order, map your delivery radius, send it to the Toast point of sale system so the chef can cook the food, dispatch it to a delivery driver who will bring that to you, and the staff have had to do nothing. So we essentially replace the restaurant phone line, and the average customer will save about $100,000 a year, and the goal is to do this for every single restaurant
In the world?
We'll start with the US and then maybe in the world.
That's amazing. And obviously we met you two boys first. I think I met Adam, or me and Andrew met Adam first at Serge's place in Cape Town, and then Isaac now being in the community as well. I want to know, you guys were in Cape Town. Why did you guys go to the US? What happened?
Well, the biggest reason is that we got into Y Combinator, which is I guess you'd say the most critically acclaimed startup accelerator in the world.
Basically, for the people listening, it's like Harvard for business school. You can say that, right?
No. Like for startups. I wouldn't say business school. I would say startups. Like I feel like they treat that dynamic very differently. So you can call it like the Stanford for startups. Yeah.
Well, what are some of the most popular businesses that have come out of YC?
Yeah, quite a few. So like Airbnb, DoorDash, Coinbase, Reddit. Zepto, Stripe, Instacart.
So essentially, if you get accepted into YC, like you are top of the range, right? Like there's some, like this business is going to be exceptional, right? How did you guys get in there in the first place, right? What an exceptional thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, funnily enough, this was the second time we applied. So the first time we applied, we weren't actually accepted. And it was with a similar idea, except we were doing outbound calls for restaurants, not inbound. So what we were doing initially, Gavir and I, is we had a marketing industry in the we had a marketing agency in the restaurant industry. And basically what we do is we generate leads for them, where we do that for their events and catering, because he's come from the industry and we understood that restaurants they're an industry where margins are very low, and it's very difficult to acquire new customers through sort of traditional marketing channels. So the way in which we thought about doing that is kind of creating a community effect in a restaurant, which is when you host events, things like, a baby shower, a wedding, a wake, something of that kind, and you get a higher ticket value for these restaurants, like a $5,000 to $10,000, catering event of some kind. The margin is higher, and also it means that we can actually spend money to acquire those customers, which is what we initially did.
And we drive actual revenue for them rather than getting them someone who's going to spend $20.
Yeah. So that was the initial idea we had, and then the part that went along with that is that we would generate these leads for restaurants, but like you guys know this, most people don't call their leads quickly enough. So we wanted to develop then like an AI agent which could outbound call those leads and then book them in for an appointment with like a catering manager or something of that kind who could then close them. The problem with that is just the technology wasn't really there. From what I understand, YC didn't really think our business model was the best, like the way in which we'd actually make money. So that's why we didn't get in the first time. But the second time now, when we applied and we got into the summer batch, they obviously thought it was an idea that was worth betting on. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And how important, obviously there's a lot of companies that come from YC, how important is the naming of it? Obviously we briefly touched on it earlier. Like how important is the name of a company?
the name of a company, meaning like the name Certus?
Yeah, or like Airbnb and Rolex.
Yeah, I think they don't take that into account a lot. I think a lot of the time if you named a company Apple, like you'd probably think it's a stupid name, but like it's a household name now. And I think you build a brand around the name rather than like the name for a brand. So yeah.
I think another thing to mention on that is that the founders that get accepted into YC are not always based on the actual idea themselves. It's more on the people are driving the idea. 40 to 50% of the people that actually get into YC flip their idea. They pivot their idea during the batch. So it's a 3-month batch, happens 4 times a year. And most of them actually pivot their idea into something new. So if they were betting on the name, they wouldn't have a very good success rate.
So if you say like they are betting a lot more on the founders than the actual idea, what are some key things that they look after? Like you guys obviously got accepted. Do you guys know what they like rated it on? Like what do they look for?
I think a lot of it is hard to quantify. Obviously things like your background history, and most of the kids that are there are like from top universities. They're like ex-NASA, ex-SpaceX.
What?
They built the helicopters that are landing on Mars right now.
And as young kids?
They built Siri. Like a lot of them, most of them are like under 25, I would say.
Yeah, but like the people he's talking about are like 30.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
there's a vast
Yeah.
Yeah, like people that led the development of Google DeepMind, the AI at Google, stuff like that. So beyond that, the traits that come with that, like high agency and extreme execution, is definitely up there.
I do think though, like the qualities that they accept you on, and then the qualities that like a great founder or like a great founder has to create a big business do vary slightly.
Okay.
So I think one of the things that like I was speaking to our group partner about, and he was like, because I was asking him why do you think he chose us, because we had like the least like we had the worst chances of getting in. We were not from like he had dropped out of high school, I had just finished high school, he was in a university in South Africa, we weren't from the US, we didn't know anyone in Silicon Valley, we did our interview online where like most people do it in person, and so we had like all odds stacked against us. And so I asked him,
and it was the hardest batch to get into.
Yeah, statistically through YC's history, this was a 0.6% acceptance rate.
So 30,000 companies applied and 0.6% got in.
Yeah,
and 90% of those will be US based.
Jeez. Okay.
Harvard,
ex-Cornell, ex-Harvard.
Stanford guys, go for it.
So what made you guys stand out then? Was it the idea mainly?
Yeah, I think so. I think in our case, like we were very hell bent on like the restaurant industry, and so we had like startups in the restaurant industry before, and we spoke about that. And I think one of the biggest things is like, if you look at companies, like generational companies or companies that do really well, there's usually like one of two things that happen. The first is that you have either primary experience in the problem that you're solving. So either you come from the industry, or secondary experience where you have solved this problem for a friend of yours or a family member of yours. And that usually happens because like you truly understand the need. And when you truly understand the need, you're able to like come up with a problem a lot quicker than like the average person, because they have to figure out what that need is. So if you think about like yourself, right? You guys started in the agency space and you understood the problems that come with it, and now you can help other agency guys.
We were the client avatar.
Exactly, right? And so I think for us, like we really understood our customers deeply. And but like basically when we applied the first time, like we really didn't know how to apply, how to convey what we were doing. But when I did the application the second time, like it was night and day, like completely different, because we were extremely confident in what was the problem that we're solving, why we're solving this, who we're doing this for, why we think we're the best people to do it, and why we think this can be a massive company. And more importantly, that we've made something that people want, which is like what YC's tagline is. And I think those things all together, plus like truly our confidence and like our synergy together as co-founders, really I think makes a good impression on people.
I would like to know, how do you figure out what people actually want? Because like I think it was Steve Jobs or someone said that people don't know what they want, you should give them what they want. Or if people asked what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, you know what I mean? Like that old quote. Like, how do you know what people
I think it's Henry Ford who said that. He was like, if you ask people what they want like faster horses rather than a car.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to predict the future in a sense.
Like an innovator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think...
Especially in a new industry like AI, it's completely different. You sort of have to teach people about the product as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. They have no idea what they want. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you think about it, if you ask a restaurateur how they would have sold their phone line before they knew, they'd probably like want like someone to like be by the phone every
day. 10 more people.
Same
thing, right?
Yeah, I think like one thing is like a technology shift really like changes things. Like we didn't invent like AI phone, right? Like we saw it happening in other industries and we realized that we could do it for us. And so for us, maybe it was not this like technical revolution where we like kind of thought about this before anyone else in terms of like for this like in terms of this being the solution, but definitely for the industry industry and the way in which we did it. And the way we were able to do that is definitely, again, understanding this problem extremely deeply. Like before we actually applied to YC, we had spoken to over 1,200 restaurants, to the point where we understood that problem so deeply and knew exactly how we had to build this in a way to solve this truly end to end for this to be the most valuable piece of like technology for them. And I think a lot of that, knowing what to build usually comes to speaking to customers. And that's like rule 101. It's like truly understanding and speaking to people and doing market research. And again, that's why like companies who either have primary or secondary experience get to accelerate their growth faster, because a lot of that market research comes through them and them themselves.
I mean, I love that, man. I think a lot of a great product comes down to how much you can serve a client. And if I look back at how things unfolded for us, right? It's like we also had to pivot a little bit in the niche and whatever. And a lot of people that start off with our info product, you know, they always come with the first question, like, okay, what niche do I go into? What service do I do? Like, what business or whatever? And I think majority of clarity on that front can come down to just being part of a great team and spending time in the market. Right? And because then you realize like what the people actually need and what they want. And then you can essentially create a product around that. This is exactly what you guys are doing, right? You guys have a brief experience or in the field, and that's where the product came down.
Do you want to talk more about your
yeah, maybe I'll talk a little bit about like why the restaurant industry. So my parents so I was born in South Africa, but when my parents had moved from India, and when I was about 9 years old, they opened up their first restaurant in Cape Town. And so like fortunately or unfortunately for me, my school was 5 minutes away from their first restaurant, and so every day after school I would come in and actually pick up the phone and do the phone calls for them. And the main reason for that is like this was their first restaurant, and independent restaurant owners cannot afford to miss a single phone call, because those phone calls drive revenue. It's a reservation, an order, a delivery, right? And when you're starting out, you can't afford to miss any of that. But more importantly, you also can't afford to hire someone dedicated to the phone line. So you don't have the capital expenditure to actually like do that by hiring someone full time. And so for my parents, their solution was like their 9-year-old son, right? But most people don't have that. And I kind of got really involved in the industry. By the time I was 13, I was actually managing the front of house for their first location. So training the staff how to handle the phone line, and then also showing them how to use the point of sale system, the reservation system, because like most restaurateurs, my parents weren't tech savvy. And then by the time I was 17, my parents had 11 restaurant locations. And so I was kind of doing that for all of their restaurants. And so like we truly understood the problem and who we were serving. And I think that really makes a big difference, both really, like
basically had like a decade's worth of experience.
Yeah,
you can say that.
Yeah. Like more experience than like most restaurateurs that we serve have, right?
And a beautiful thing, especially like that's what like a big thing for like, especially I see it in under myself as well, is like just a continuation of learning and studying every single day, and now having that background and then also seeing the AI revolution and being a part of that, you then mix that together, right? That is the beauty of that.
And how much did you learn about AI in university and school?
Not too much. No, I the thing is, when we actually met, they were both doing the restaurant marketing agency, and at that time, I was in university for computer science, but I was like all of you trying to build my own thing as well. So I'd go to school, and you know they'd be pushing you into like getting a career and getting a good CV. And for me, it was always about building something myself. And so during high school, I actually dropped out and went to go work in Dubai for a bit. Came back and finished school, but
would you work on in Dubai? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, briefly. Worked at a drone company in Dubai and completely overhauled their full hiring process using AI as well. So automated all of it from back to front in terms of, you know, they were getting hundreds of applicants a week for new hires and stuff, and I completely systemized that. So that was sort of my first touch point with really building things with AI. And then after that, I started to build my own, you know, software agency, just building softwares for different industries, telecommunications, law, architecture. Yeah, I did it all for like South African-based companies, integrating AI within their data and stuff like that, and that's where I learned about it. And then my brother was actually managing a restaurant in London, and so I made my first money from actually building a full back of house system for them. Before I even met them. So I was in the restaurant industry as well, building tech, building AI for restaurant owners, and I really understood this problem. And so when we met, it sort of felt like a dream match.
Yeah. Yep. Just to add to that as well, I think like the one great thing about us is like we have like very complementary skills as well. And so we were at a point where we had done a couple 100,000 in sales to like selling restaurants at like 17, 18. So we knew how to market and sell to them and like build and package products. But he knew how to like build the tech. And so it's kind of like bringing that together and being able to deliver like all of that. But it comes to like building a great product, scaling a company, and then also the way that you manage departments. So it's been great.
Yeah. I do think that's also like all of that sort of experience combined is probably one of the biggest reasons why we did get into YC, because as we said, like a lot of the people that are getting in, they're coming from a point of view where they've not necessarily built their own startup, but they've worked in a company where they've gotten that same sort of level of experience. So maybe we didn't come from a big NASA or Tesla or something like that, but we had the same sort of
market experience
as they did. Yeah.
I think we can touch a bit on the valuation part of things. I know you guys briefly mentioned that. So how does it even work, the valuation part?
Yeah, do you want to
tell me? Maybe best like to explain how YC actually works.
Yeah, maybe should I explain to you guys what YC is? Because I feel like he kind of alluded to it. But so yeah, YC is like the most prestigious startup accelerator in the world, and every year, this year they're doing 4 batches. Like since like last year, they started doing 4 batches a year. The main reason for that is just because there's so many new businesses coming into the market because of AI. But say like 3 years ago, they would only do 1 to 2 batches a year, where about, like you said, 0.5 to 1% of the companies that apply get accepted, and then you get funded by them. So they themselves invest 2 investments. They give you 125K at 7% of the company, and then another 375 for an uncapped safe, which basically means like whatever round you raise your next round at, they basically, that 375 converts to that valuation.
Oh wow.
So like all in, they give you about $500,000, which, what is that in rand?
That's for 7%.
It's like 9 million rand.
Like 9 million rand.
And how old are you guys?
I'm 19.
20.
And no college degree?
I'm an old guy now.
No college. No high school degree.
No high school degree, no college degree.
I finished my A-levels like in London online. I moved online so I could work on this.
I dropped out of uni.
And, do you think people now are almost, like if you dropped out, do you think that's almost like a positive now? Like I kind of told my parents this 3 years ago, it's like, they're going to literally look at you and be like, okay, you didn't go to college, I'm going to bet on you. Because that means you can bet on yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like I told my father as well, right? Like, I'm gonna be working in an industry that does not even exist yet. I told him that in grade 11 when I was looking at doing my applications for uni and trying to become an engineer or whatever. I just told him like, I'm gonna be working in an industry that doesn't exist yet, and look what we are doing. Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous.
For sure. Definitely, like a lot of the people that we actually met at YC are dropouts. Like they'd gotten into like a Cornell or a Stanford. I feel like they actually like once you get in for the name, and then you can like drop out and do YC. It's pretty funny. But anyways, point being, so that's what YC is. They give you like 500K, and then for 3 months you then build a company. You follow their advice where they provide it. The main thing that like we genuinely found a lot of value from is like the people that we surround ourselves with. I think that's one of the biggest things, because it kind of like breaks down any mental barrier that you have around whether you think you can build a massive company. Because you know, when like it's kind of like a conversation like this. Like we're sitting at a dinner table. You're worth like $2 billion. He's worth like $10 billion. And we're just chatting with you and shooting the shit and like making jokes about each other. And when you're like in that environment, it's like, and I say this in the most respectful way, it's, if they can do it, so can we, right? And they know that. Like that's one of the things that they mention is like, come to these talks so that you don't like put these people on a pedestal. Like look up to them, but don't think that it's like unreachable. And so after the 3 months, you then like most companies will raise a seed round. So we just wrapped up our seed round.
How did that go?
Yeah, it was good. I can't mention the amount just yet, but I can mention like so the valuation of the company right now is north of $500 million rand. So yeah.
How much is that in dollars? $500 million rand.
About $30 million. Yeah. So we just wrapping up our round, and then now YC just ends, and then we carry on with like building the company. So we raised from a couple investors, and then the goal will be to like hit our certain like milestones and like revenue goals, and then potentially raise another round in like 12 to 18 months from now.
So how would the distribution work then? Like, if you sell the company, like YC obviously takes 7% of that, $500 million.
Yeah, exactly.
And the seed round is an extra like investors that invest, right?
Yeah. Now we're raising from like different investors. This is not including like YC.
Okay.
So most seed rounds are composed of a bunch of angels, which are like individuals who are now putting their personal capital into a company to buy equity.
Yeah.
And then there'll be some like early stage funds, which basically means it's like a venture fund, which invests in companies that are early stage, like seed stage or Series A, around there.
Yeah, like they'll invest in like the earliest stage of a company. I wanted to ask, you know, a company called 8 Sleep? Like
8 Sleep.
So the CEO of 8 Sleep invested in us. He's like one of our investors. Yeah, so like people like this, like high net worth people who like understand what it takes to like run a company. I had a call with him. It was like I had a 7-minute call with him, and in 7 minutes he like invested in us. It's pretty cool.
But and that's insane, the amount of like clarity is probably not the right word, but like that they know in 7 minutes where they want to like distribute $1 million. Like that's insane, right? And do you have access to these, like, or are they like mentors now to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Like I'm on phone number basis with him and like other people who have like sold their companies for like multi-billion dollars. The network is insane. Like that's one of the biggest things that they provide.
The best thing about YC is that the people that actually interviewed us first to get in are the people that mentor us throughout the program. And then for the next 10 years, we have personal access to them whenever we want. And so these are guys that have literally shaped the way we interact with tech, like the biggest educational tech platforms these guys built. They're worth multiple billions of dollars. And now they're like rooting for us, right? From the beginning, they were the first believers in us. And now they're like, we're accessible to them like at any point. So we can get, any problem that we're going through has likely been gone through in some way or another from someone in our network. And so it's just about how we can take agency and reach out to them and sort of, fast track any issues that we're having.
Yeah, that's like, and I think also the other thing is like people in college, they have this thing where they like don't listen to their business teacher because like their business teachers never had like a business.
Yeah.
But like the guys who interviewed us, like one of them sold like Google Photos, like he invented Google Photos. The other guy like had he has a school platform that like 75% of the United States students use this platform. He sold it for $500 million. The CEO of Monzo, things like that, so like crazy stuff.
That's so much more valuable than a business degree, right? It's like I truly believe, and that's why we're going so all in on online education. Is like it's 100% going to shift that entire industry, because what's the point of getting a business degree from someone who has never started a business, right? Like there's no form of learning there, and you can't really incentivize a successful business owner to teach at a university, right? You're not going to pay him enough. So the only way how you can let both of the parties win, the professor or the business owner and also the actual like person that needs to study, right, is, well, if he gets incentivized through the actual education, right? And so that's why I think online education and courses, stuff like that is going to be massive, right? Yeah. So you guys would say that like the mentorship aspect was probably one of the more valuable aspects of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think like them coming from, because there's two things. They've like obviously built their own company, and so they know how hard it is, and they know things of that sort. But also they like work with like 20 companies every quarter. Like they see what it takes to like build massive companies, and so I think that also really helps. But honestly, like they're very hands off, like extremely hands off. They're only there like if you need them. And honestly, like there's like maybe 3 pieces of advice in 3 months that we got that like actually like did anything, but it helped a lot. But I definitely think majority of it comes down to like now the network that we're part of, the people that we can potentially like hire in our company, the capital providers that we have access to, and I think just being in that ecosystem, changes everything for you. Like me adding YC to my like LinkedIn, changed everything.
And so like, what would you say is like, what is like the main levers that changed pre-YC to post-YC?
Yeah. Do any of you guys want to answer this?
I think the biggest thing would be honestly capital, like access to capital and being able to go into a market aggressively and like grow the way you want to. Like I think
that means better team. Like what does that mean? You've got more capital. What does that mean?
It means you can be way more aggressive with how you go to market and the way that you actually build things, instead of optimizing everything for like, okay, how much runway do we actually have here? How frugal can we be? It's now from a more abundance mindset of like, okay, what is possible now that we have that taken care of? Let's look at that, and actually we do things a lot better way.
I think the big thing the capital sort of helps with is exactly this, which is make something people want. Because once you almost remove money from the equation, like do we have to make money now?
Yeah,
then you just focus on the actual problem, which at the end of the day, in the long term, is what's going to make you the most amount of money anyway.
Yeah, I would say so. I think capital is one. I think for me personally, like I think capital is, you can access capital anywhere, and I feel like if you do well enough, that capital is available. So like 100% agree with that. Though, like that really changed our trajectory of getting access to that. But I think one thing that I was like a lot more cognizant of was like the people that we have access to in terms of like hiring, because talent isn't everywhere.
Yeah.
Like yes, you can find like greatly talented people in like South Africa and things of that sort, but a lot of them, if they're like truly talented and they know what they're worth, they move over to like San Francisco. And I think that being in this proximity of people who are like striving and ambitious and want to do the things that you want to do, but maybe they just don't have the opportunity to build their own startup, but they want to solve extremely hard problems and they want to be a part of the team who's going to change the world, having that really, really helps. And having the name YC gives you this like level up of like, like if 2 people are competing for one person and you're a YC company and they're not, the likelihood that they come for you is because of that name really like makes your chances higher.
And I think this is like Do you think you can, how would you go about tapping into the benefits of having a lot of capital if one does not have that? Operating out of a place of mindset, focusing of abundance, focusing on building out the product, but obviously you still need some capital to sort of live, right? How would you guys go about balancing that out? Like knowing what you know now, if you had to go back to your previous life, what would you do differently if you did not have the 500K? Like what would you prioritize there?
I think like for us, so when we initially started YC, we actually had quite a few customers in our product. But what ended up happening is we had to refund a bunch of them and basically say to them, look, like we can't do what we promised we were going to do. And the reason for that is because for YC, again, like we were very sort of stringent on the amount of capital we could use, and therefore we were optimizing for selling as many people as possible, which meant we'd bring people on who we couldn't necessarily fulfill the best for, because like, look, we need the money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right? So I think the biggest thing, if I could go back, I would just be like, well, I mean, look, we don't really need the money. Like if the thing is that you're trying to optimize for is making as much money for yourself, like you should be thinking about, okay, cool, in the long term, if I create a good product, that's what I'm going to get. But right now, I can sacrifice that, and I'm in a stage of, let me not make money, let me work with a few people, really understand what's going to work for them, have some key power users, and then build something that people want. So it's sort of coming, I think the big thing is just coming from the perspective of, look, chances are this is not the stage for me to make money in the next 12 months. I'm just going to be working on this product. And from that feedback, I will then develop something where I can then actually,
which will make you more money in the long term anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, one of the things, Paul Graham, you've read his essays, I imagine. He's the founder of YC, and so every batch he comes in and does a talk. And one thing that he always touches upon, and that we've heard from a lot of YC alumni that we're close with, is that, you'd rather have 5 customers that absolutely love you and would die for you and love your product and use it every single day, than hundreds or thousands of people that sort of like your product and like, yeah, it's cool, it's convenient, but they don't love it. Like,
is the ratio really that?
Gmail,
is that
it's like
ratio accurate?
Yeah.
Like really?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
The delta between how involved in your customer's life you have to be to build something that they truly love and that will really change the world is massive. And so that has to come from extreme focusing on customers, speaking to customers, and actually solving the pain points that really matter to them.
Sam Ovens, like these main thing, like so we were, I was staying with one of the first school game winners, and so he ended up meeting Sam Ovens, and he said the main thing that Sam Ovens was doing is just asking everybody the experience of school itself. And that has sat with me for so long. He even asked the videographer who this guy paid to follow him around to film everything, has he heard of school? Where has he heard of it? What's his experience on that? And I think that drives that point home a lot.
I would definitely say like one of the things that I think is like the most valuable that YC has brought to us, and this is like with all the things like capital and things provided, definitely the understanding and that realization that like you truly want to make something that people absolutely love. And one of the pieces of advice that our group partner gave, and I think this is like one of the 3, was just like stop everything. Like stop everything.
Like all marketing, all sales.
Everything, right? For the first 2 months of YC, we like completely stopped everything. Like we weren't like you wouldn't see our name anywhere because we stopped filming content, we stopped doing anything.
Okay.
Focus extremely heavily on the product. Speak to the current users. That like one of the things, like I'll be honest, like we burned a lot of customers, and I'm not proud in saying this, but like we were optimizing for the wrong things. We didn't know what to do, and I think just the realization of like what it truly takes to build a generational company, and how it comes down to just having like a few people that absolutely love you, and you being able to like replicate that process in other people's life. That's not something that we had, like that's not something that we did. And so I think coming into YC and spending the first 2 months completely revamping and relaunching the product as like what it is today, I don't think we'd be where we are if we didn't do that.
And so do you think there's a time in the beginning of because like I mean the nature of building or starting a business is, well, I mean you tend to think, okay, I need to get some money and get some clients. Like that's the first thing you think about, right? So do you think there's some value in taking 3 months to not even think about getting any clients or focusing on acquisition and just building out a product that works? Obviously, you need to have clients to know what the market needs, right? So you need to be able to work in the industry. How would you go about doing that?
So in like the software business, or like a SaaS company or whatever it is, there's this term called design partners, and what they are like 3 to 5 people that you know they're the type of people that you're going to solve a problem for. Okay. So if I knew that I wanted to build a company for like the restaurant industry, I would find 5 restaurateurs and live with them. Live with those 5 restaurateurs.
Wash their dishes.
So build the product around these guys.
Correct. And like set the expectation. Say like, look, I want to come into this industry. I don't necessarily know exactly what I want to build, but I want to build something that's like causing you stress, that's causing you to lose money. So is it cool if I just like stay with you for a couple days or like come in every day for a couple hours? I just watch everything. And then you basically build the product around that. Yeah. And that's like how most amazing products are built, right? Like if I hadn't figured out that phones were a problem, like from my own experience or like from our customers telling us, and I sat in a restaurant, I would just hear the phones going off the hook and the staff not picking it up, and I'll be able to be like, this is a problem we should solve.
That's why it's so good to actually, go through the problems yourself.
Yeah.
And you did exactly. Yeah. So.
I think there's a term that's sort of really big in hiring, especially in Silicon Valley, which is like hiring missionaries instead of mercenaries. And I think you sort of have to be the first one to kind of take that on when you start a company, which is like, I'm not here to make money, I'm here to solve a problem. And that's what you're doing.
Yo, that's good, bro. I think, you guys having access to a lot of top tier mentors, like you guys mentioned right now. What would you guys say makes a good mentor? And
you can probably talk about that with the guy you work for.
Yeah, so when I was 17, the way in which we started our first company is like I was doing full-time school, moved to a new country, and to fund the company, I had to get a part-time job as well. And so instead of going to school, like to a brick and mortar school to finish my high school, I just decided to do it online so I could like do school. I basically did my A-levels, which is like a 2-year course in like 6 months. And I worked for a guy who was worth like a couple $2 billion. And he was basically building a house in London, which was worth 80 million pounds for him and his family. And my job was to like go in there because basically his numbers were completely like screwed up, right? Like people were like messing him over in his supplies and things like that. He was like, why don't you come and do this for me? I saved him like, I think I managed like a couple £1 million worth of his money, saved him like 75k a month just from like all the other shit that he was like losing. But he became like really close to me and like a great mentor. And I think one of the biggest things is like in general, and you see this with people who write like angel checks, right? Like this 8 Sleep guy, he's got more than enough money. He doesn't need to make more money. He's got his own business. He's like in a position where like adding more stress to his life is probably going to cause harm to his company. But one of the things that really, and I think that this is something that happens with a lot of people who make a lot of money and like see how hard it is to like get there, is that they always had a few people in their life that changed their perspective on how to get there. And there's this feeling of giving back, right? Like our group partner, he sold his company for $500 million. He doesn't need to give back. He doesn't need to spend like 3 of his months in a year to like teach like kids, right? But he does it because he loves the ability to help people. So I think that's the first thing. Like you really need to like think like for them. So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is I think that you have to have done something with your life. Because I think a lot of the times when you give advice to people, when you haven't even done those things, a lot of it like it doesn't actually transfer, right? Like if you think about guys who are like selling coaching programs or like agencies when they haven't even built their own agency, like you can call bullshit straight away.
18-year-old life coach.
Exactly, right? And so I think that like the first quality is like really having this like intrinsic feeling to want to help people, and then the second thing is like having done it yourself. At least those are like those are the 2 main common things that I've noticed with any mentor that I've ever had.
The last thing I'd probably then also say is obviously finding a mentor who, like, depending on what you're getting mentorship from, like what aspect of their life, that is something you aspire to have as well.
Yeah.
Correct. Sorry, Karen.
It has to match specifically. Like if you're looking for someone to help you specifically and I want to grow a business, this is the business I want to grow, they need to have built a business that you would want if you could have been there.
You wouldn't take health advice from your fat uncle.
Fat doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Another step to that is either like Adam said, having done that, or secondarily, like the next step would be helping multiple other people like you do the same thing. And then the third would just be completely aligned incentives. And I think that's one of the great things about YC.
Aligned incentives is a good one as well.
That like any other system like this where there's like hundreds of millions of dollars being thrown about in such a small place with young, vulnerable people that love their business and just want to hold on to their business, there's so much room for people to get screwed over. But YC is so good and they have such a strong hold on the people that are associated with them that like a YC handshake, for example, is like as good as gold. Like none of our contracts, can I say this, are actually technically signed, but they're like YC handshakes. For a long time they were, at least.
Before. They're all done now.
They're all done
They're
now.
all done now.
Yeah, but like once they weren't signed, a YC handshake was as good as that money being in our bank. And so that only comes with the name of YC, because the reputation around, they have so much power in terms of destroying people's reputation, that they do so well by YC founders that they don't put up a fuss, they just do things well and sort of let us crack on with business.
There's literally a term for it. It's called the handshake deal. It's called the YC handshake deal. Like if I'm speaking to you and you want to invest and I go like this, that like you can't break that. And like so basically we have this cool story.
we have this really cool story, and it kind of leads to this point. Is basically maybe like 2 weeks before demo day, YC brought in 3 investors, and they chose 3 companies to pitch live in front of like a whole batch. We were one of the companies to do it, and so the first guy went and he like pitched the investor. Cool, I'll get back to you. We'll see if we want to invest, right? And then I jump on stage with this guy, and he's invested in a couple of YC companies, like a decent amount actually, and so he knows the ecosystem. I spent 30 minutes speaking to him about the company, pitching him in front of everyone. On stage. And then as soon as that's done, I'm like, so like, I've told you everything I need to, like, what's next? Do you, like, when am I hearing back from you? He's like, I've heard everything, I want to invest. And then he shook my hand in front of it. Everyone was like clapping, blah, blah, blah. One of the group partners was like, this is the first time this has ever happened in YC history. No one's invested on the spot in one of these things. So that was pretty cool. But once the whole thing was done, me, Adam, and Isaac went to him, and I asked him. I was like, so what's the next step? He was like, look, just like take your time, carry on your fundraising, but just know like what we did there is like it's real. Deals. Like I want to tell you, my reputation means the most. Like my reputation is the most important thing, and I would never fuck over a founder. By not doing this, because I thought it was kind of like a surreal moment, especially like when someone was like, this is like the first time this has ever happened in YC history. I was like, maybe he was just doing it for the sake of doing it, but like they really take that to heart, and I think that's one of the biggest things.
Wow. So they know they have access there to the people that are building the future, right? In every single industry, hardware, software, like anything you can imagine, people are building there, and they want to have future access to that. And so on demo day, which is like the last day of the 3 months, after you're done building, you have a one pitch, 60-second, one slide, 60-second pitch.
So like 1,000 investors.
So like 1,000 of the top Silicon Valley investors, and everyone who's anyone is there. And so you all line up and you just go one after the other for like hours and hours.
And they can discern like the quality of a founder or a business by just 60 seconds?
No. So that's 60 seconds. Like, do we want to have a conversation with them?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then they'll do their then I'll have follow-ups, or I'll meet them in person or something like that.
And how many of these companies are AI companies?
90% of our batch this time.
Really?
90% of this batch was AI companies. Yeah,
so
it's pretty crazy.
What would you tell people who are kind of reluctant to even
to adopt AI?
Adopt AI.
Yeah, I would say like you're looking at it wrong. I think every couple of like decades you have a technology revolution, and like you can call it like first was the internet, like very recently in our years, like we can imagine like when Google was around, and or when Google had just started, we were just born around then. But point being is like every couple of decades, new technology comes about that creates like a whole realm, like a whole new realm of what can be imagined and what can be created. And the reason that like YC went from having 1 to 2 batches a year to 4 batches is because they understand this shift. We are literally at the forefront of changing the world, right? Like one of our group partners said is like I kind of feel, this is what he said, I kind of feel bad for you guys because we're in a position where I can't even tell you what to do because you guys are the ones that are creating the playbook for the next AI companies.
Wow,
because we're at the forefront of it, right? Like 3 years ago, I mean like maybe like 5 years ago, before like ChatGPT and like this whole AI revolution, they had like a very simple playbook for anyone who's building like an internet company, right? Or like a social company. But we are the ones that are writing the playbook, and I understand like why you're skeptical, but it's like with or without you, the world's going to move forward.
Yeah.
And it's really the young people now making, I think isn't it the biggest wealth shift in the world currently taking place? I think that's something else, but like all the younger people know the AI, social media, technology, it's the best time to ever be alive, but everyone is like anxious and depressed.
I think like you brought up a point earlier around around university and people kind of making that decision. I mean, you guys obviously you dropped out and decided not to go. So I think a big thing for people to consider now is depending on where you spend your time, with time being the thing that's now so compressed in regards to how quickly things are moving forward. You really have to be wise about how much time am I spending on information that is not relevant. Because again, with all the amount of information that is out there is so vast now, you really have to decide where am I going to focus my time.
I mean, it's so like we are in the information age, right? Like me and my father speak about this a lot. It's like, I think he has a bit of a, I mean, I think we're on a similar belief about it right now, but in the beginning, he really believed like the internet is a very negative thing, right? I think, you know, it comes down to how you utilize it. It's like anything else, right? Like there's going to be a lot more of everything. Entertainment, negative, like the news, like certain paradigms are going to want to, you know, grab your attention or whatever. There's going to be people that's going to be competing for your attention. And it comes all down to what do you spend your time on focusing? There's never been a time or an age where getting information has been so easy. Imagine trying to read the amount of books or information or get access to that knowledge. You had to go to a physical library, right? And then you had to first pull up an actual map to figure out where is this place, right? Like now, having access to all these things, it is such an advantage. And I think people can't put that into perspective. Like our generation that was born with this privilege, if we only knew how it felt in the 1920s to try and get information as easy as we do right now, we would value what we have so much more. Yeah.
I have a point on this that I think is like super important, at least for us, is in the world where like you can learn everything and like information is extremely accessible, everyone has the ability to like access the rate of learning infinitely and super fast, right? But if you think about like if you think about like a graph, right? On the y-axis you have rate of learning, and on the x-axis you have like rate of change. And if you think of how growth is made, it's like you have to learn something, and then you have to act upon that learning to like grow, right? And I think that we're coming to this position where everyone's like this fucking guru who understands everything and like knows so much about everything.
Rate of learning is through the charts.
Exactly. Rate of change does not work. And I think that the way that you separate yourself is just like
actually taking action.
Vigorously act upon like what you think is important and do it for like a very long amount of time, and usually something works out. And I think that's where most people are going to get stuck, is because they're going to feel like, they like, if you think about it, like, bro, like people watch like a, and I mean this in all respectful way, like, because this is our audience, is like, they watch like an Iman video and they feel like they've made $30 million themselves, right? Like they're like, how I made $30 million at like 20, whatever, how old he is.
I mean, I think you believe that you are progressing towards a goal, which I mean, technically it's better to do that than to watch something else, I guess, that you're learning something. But, you know, there needs to be a form of change to take place, right? And like the change could be taking action. Like there's value in reading 100 books, but you can learn a lot about swimming, but you need to at some point to take action and swim, right? Like that's the whole point of reading, is to swim. So,
and that, in that aspect, like, you know, if you want the perfect graph, it's just doing both. Like no person sits in their room for 12 hours a day and reads. Like no person does that. So if you say read more, you know, it's usually, okay, I'll read an extra 30 minutes a day. You know, that's what reading more means. So if you can do both. I also heard like, was a Never Enough author, Andrew Wilkinson. He's also like, you know, everyone's got this debate, should I read more, work more? Like everyone's got this. And he said, just like do both. Do both.
This is red, is that fine?
Because, might have pressed the button. Let's just see. Oh no, we're good.
We're good?
Yeah, we're good. Yo, bro, I got a heart attack, bro. Like,
yeah,
we're good.
But a bee just stung me like in the middle
I was like, bro, a bee just stung you?
Yeah. Did a bee sting you?
Yeah.
No way.
Right, yeah. Through the
socks. We can keep this in.
Okay. I completely agree. And I think the inverse to that is like, you should not be in a position where like you're just doing the same thing. Like you've learned a certain amount and you just continue to do that. Like you have to also like learn, right? So like I think you have to find that perfect balance of like continuously learning. And I think that's also another thing, is like, because we have ease of information or like access to this information, you don't have to go to university to learn, right? Like my prerequisite was, if I decide to go to university, I have to go to a top 0.1% university, because I'm not going for the information, I'm going for the people.
It's more networking.
100%.
I mean, that like the main thing that I see what's going to happen, right, is it's just because the rate of change. We're not going to be able to live in a day and age where, you know, you just go study for 4 years and then you're done. You got a piece of paper and that's good. Like you're going to have to continuously adapt and learn. Like how much do you guys need to learn new things? If you're in the AI space, it's so much, like
every week something is changing.
Something is always, and so you always need to stay adaptability is everything, right? Like some people, you know, when they join the product or whatever, when they look at like jumping on the Q&As and ask like, what is these AI future businesses and companies, and what can I do that AI won't replace? And I'm like, you know, I'm excited for this age, because I know I can adapt and I'm going to use AI to benefit me. I will never be able to be replaced because I'm gonna, well, at least that's what my goal is, right? So I'm gonna try and stay on top of things. How do you guys go about looking at that? Obviously being surrounded by 90% of AI companies, like that's insane actually.
I think it's something we've all had to kind of become more comfortable with, which is just uncertainty. I think that is simply just a given in this space, and especially now in sort of the age we live in, it's kind of like you have to sort of just tackle things as they come, and that just comes with doing more, right?
And being adaptable.
Exactly.
Just like you need to be like water, like Bruce Lee. Especially now, you kind of have to like, you don't want to be rigid whatsoever.
Yeah. I think the point you mentioned there, where people are asking those things on Q&A calls, like what they're kind of looking for is like, what is the answer?
That one's certainty. Yeah, it's good. That one's certainty. Give me clarity. I want to know. It's like, I don't know.
Exactly.
But that is the point, right?
Like we got a talk from Paul Graham sort of towards the end of the batch, and he actually made a very good point around this, which is that the biggest problem that school has in what it teaches young people is it teaches them to try and find a cheat code for everything. Right? If you think about it, the way in which you're learning for a test, you're not learning to learn about the subject. It's not the knowledge. You're learning to pass the test. So you're looking for a cheat code, right? In life and in business, that doesn't exist, right? You have to, through action, is where you will find those answers.
I love that, man.
Yeah. It's actually a detriment, really, for most people. Like after the school system, you kind of have to just unlearn all of it.
Yeah. That's
so what's the point?
I mean, wow. And it's like, I mean, the biggest thing, like genuinely the biggest thing for me after school, getting into this industry, is just like information, right? And I really had a paradigm or like a perspective on knowledge and learning as negative, because I really didn't like learning anything that I was learning at school, right? I liked biology a little bit, but fuck, you know what I mean? Like that, like I was never passionate about anything until I picked up one book that like, it completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I realized after reading that, like, oh my word, because it was something about paradigms, right? It was actually a mentor or like a lecturer of mine. We did a class at university about paradigms, which changed everything to me. And he actually gave me a book to read, and I read that book, and it just changed, because then you realize that ideas, beliefs, knowledge, information shapes your reality. And by exposing yourself to different beliefs and ideas and paradigms, that alters your reality. And so if you want a different reality, a different life, well then just surround yourself with different information and get access to that, even if you need to pay for it. Like, knowledge and information is everything. And that's why we extensively invest in mentorship. And that's why I'm very jealous about the network that you guys are building.
And I think one of the great things about what you mentioned is that's all comes down to input. Like you can control all of that. It all just comes down to, again, taking action. Like whether you want to change your reality, it's just about the unknown unknowns. How quickly can you iterate on that and just know more things so that you can change your reality? I think you spoke about this last year. I spoke to you when we talked about how the inputs is actually all that it really takes. And what I think actually really helped me is changing the definition of learning itself. People think that reading the book is learning. Change the definition of that to how have I actually implemented this.
I agree with that 100%.
And it just changes what you're solving for completely.
Yeah, I love that.
And speaking about knowledge, like where do you find knowledge now, aside from the networking and the mentors? Like, where do you go for information? YouTube, or like, do you have some other specific?
Solely.
Yeah, I think we're very lucky because like we know what we need to do, and so when you know what you need to do, then it's less about like it's less about what knowledge you need to find. It's just like, who do you go to do that? Exactly what you're saying. And I think that once you know what knowledge you're looking for, then it's a lot easier, whether you do that through ChatGPT or whether you like ask someone. Because like the problem is like when you don't know what you're solving for, what you want to do, you'll like sit on YouTube and like hope the algorithm finds something. Right?
So it's a prerequisite for that is the goal.
100%.
Right? Like what you're building, and then knowledge because you got something working on.
I think Rockefeller said this. Or maybe I'm just quoting him, but it's kind of like when you're probably Churchill,
probably Socrates, honestly.
But basically, like when you're on a battlefield, like before you choose your weapon, you choose your enemy, right? Like you need to know where he is. If he's like right in front of you, right, you're not going to take like a ballistic sniper rifle, right? Like you're going to choose a shotgun or something. And so like before you choose your weapon, you need to choose your enemy. And I think that the dangerous part is like just going in with any weapon into a battlefield that you have no idea of. And everyone starts at that point, but you have to like pick up something and like try and hone in on one thing.
The goal shapes the inputs, right? And it's like I believe this wholeheartedly, that you only need two things in life, right? Is you need a clear goal and the belief that it's possible to achieve it, right? Now, how you go about doing that is, there's a lot of underlying things, right? Is how do you actually believe it's possible to take action, and what do I really want? Like, I probably don't know, right? I don't know what my clients even want. I don't know what I want. And so identifying those two things is extremely important. And I think people just don't spend enough time with themselves, like, and to actually think about this, because it's so fast. It's like you go to high school, you need to go and figure out what degree, and you don't even know what degrees and jobs are out there, and you never sit and actually think, what the fuck do I want to do with my life?
It's specifically designed that way, no?
And
like for it gives you no time to think. Whoever they is. Like you never get any time to think. Like, I was actually glad I was at a university in Stellenbosch where, I had like 3 months vacation. Most people, like they go party, drink, just like numb themselves. But I was like, didn't do anything, and I was like, what am I actually doing? Like, what's going on here? Like, where am I going? That space to think is really important.
It's like
but
passively floating.
Yeah, and that's scary, right?
Like a leaf in the wind.
It's a fearful, because that in and of itself is, you are staring into the abyss of unknown, right? There's that uncertainty, and it's staring back to you, and it's like, fuck.
But you're always going to experience that.
I know.
But like, if you're building something, you can kind of bend reality.
That's the thing about, like, you want to be like water, but you also want to have something that you're rock solidly holding onto, that you can really aim at.
Yes.
It's like you have to be unwavering in something, otherwise you sort of just get lost.
I agree.
It's the both again. It's both.
Andre has a beautiful analogy about this. It's like, if you are a painter, you want to have absolute freedom, so a blank canvas, but you still want the limitation of a canvas, And so I think that's a beautiful way to look at it, because also it's like I think people walk past their dream opportunities every day just because they don't know what their dream is. Yeah. They just don't know. And so they're walking past all these opportunities and everything just because their brain doesn't know what to look for. There's so many things happening. Like, an analogy that I like to use is, I had a VW Beetle when I was in high school, right? Oh. And it's the same thing. As soon as I decided that's the car I wanted, all of a sudden I see it everywhere. Yeah. Is there more on the road? Of course not. It's just my brain identifies them now more frequently. That's the same thing. If I know I want to, scale my online agency or whatever to a certain amount, or serve a certain amount of people, well then, like, my brain and my reality will morph into me seeing those opportunities pop up, right? Seeing certain people on YouTube or networking or whatever, and I've found that to be 100% true in my life. Yeah.
You brought up something there, which is sort of like staring into the abyss of the unknown.
Elon's got a badass quote about that one.
Yeah, he does. Do you want to say it?
Please.
I don't know exactly what it was, but it's like entrepreneurship is eating glass and staring into the abyss. And after a while, you start to enjoy the taste of blood.
Yeah.
As he said, that's entrepreneurship. So it's pretty tough.
Fair enough.
I think the definition for that would probably be that you're a psychopath.
Yeah.
To some extent.
I mean, we
to
all
some
are,
extent,
for sure, like,
yeah.
100%.
I mean, to be a bit tapped, like, you have to be.
There's surely something wrong with you.
He's been sitting alone in that room for a long time.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it's it's something I've been thinking about quite a lot, which is like, how much of it is nature and how much of it is nurture?
Yeah.
Because there has to be something biological to certain people being inclined to want to jump into pain.
Why do you think is that?
I think
that's what we're seeing as well.
Yeah, I think it's nature to some extent.
Nature, it probably comes back to like trauma or something. Whatever case.
It's war, right? Like, live business, like, this is war, and people they just have that warrior blood in them, right? Just like, and I think surrounding yourself with certain people and being in certain situations can bring that version out of you as well. Like, I find myself to be more in a certain state of, like, I can just, if the return on investment is there, my line of being able to go through suffering, my pain tolerance can be extremely high if the payout is worth it. And if I know the payout is worth it, I'll go through
capitalism.
Anything. And surrounding yourself with the right opportunities, but also with the right people, tends to bring that out of you. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, like, I feel like all of us have like gone through our own stuff that maybe like drives what we do as well.
Yeah.
But I'll use someone else as an example. I have a really good friend of mine. He's only 17 right now, and he runs one of the like most successful like door handle companies in South Africa. He's 17, and when he was 15, his father was running this company, and he passed away. and he was in a position where his brother wouldn't take necessarily action. His mom wasn't in the greatest position. His 15-year-old dropped out of high school, and this is a kid that I knew who was like you could call him the most like dumbest, naughtiest kid ever. Who would you would not like bet anything on him to like do something, but he was forced in this position, and instead of like, it's that flight.
He burdened that responsibility, right?
And he's morphed himself into a man like who's almost unrecognizable.
And in just 2 years,
less than.
It's crazy. Like, imagine you guys 4 years ago. And like
I don't want to.
Honestly,
all of us.
I'm not even joking. Imagine us like I genuinely think in 3 months.
But you guys are 19, 23. How old are you, Adam?
20.
20. Look, just think about. I mean, I'm 24, 23. Like, we are actually so young, bro. And I mean, just look how much you guys have achieved just in the past. Like, it's ridiculous, right? Yeah. And I would love to touch on the entire idea of like the pain and the brutality of entrepreneurship. And there's a philosopher of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, what's his name now?
Why am I thinking Schopenhauer?
No,
give us the quote more naming.
Churchill.
It's okay, well, it's to an extent irrelevant, right? Like his entire belief behind, his entire existence came down to the purpose of
Friedrich
life.
Nietzsche.
Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah.
The entire purpose of life is to burden suffering. Funny enough, he was very against Christianity, but I believe that to be the core fundamental of Christianity is burdening purposeful suffering, or purposeful suffering. That's what it's all about. But in any case, and he spoke about, if your goal is to have purpose in life, find something to suffer for, and on the other side of that suffering, purpose will be waiting for you, something down that line. I found that to be very beautiful, because everything that we do, we suffer for it. And the more I suffer to get a six-pack or to build a business, the payout tends to be so much higher. And especially if that suffering is in service of someone else's benefit, that purpose is tremendous, right? That's like picking up your cross and burdening it upwards. And if you can, pick someone else's one up as well, right? And in the process, if that can serve someone, I mean, that's everything.
Yeah. I think there's an idea from I guess you could call him a philosopher. His name is Yukio Mishima. Have you guys heard of him? Mm-hmm. So he was a poet and then also a captain in the Japanese military in World War II. And post World War II, what happened is the Americans occupied Japan sort of for a couple of years. And what happened is they brought in all of these very sort of like postmodern ideas, right? Atheism became rampant, like a lot of things around, consumerism, capitalism, things of that kind. And Japan sort of, from my understanding, lost its soul. So, like its traditional value, the rock that Isaac spoke about, that it would hold on to. And he was very much against this, like to the point where he tried to, do a coup in the government, and he ended up committing seppuku, so suicide. Wow. But his whole idea was this, which is that coming from the polarity of a traditional Japan in the 1940s and 30s to then postmodern Japan, he saw the biggest problem in the modern world today is that because there's such a high level of access to just comfort and luxury, it is very difficult for most people to choose that path of picking up your cross and going through suffering. And so the most honorable thing you can do is that, which is basically the idea of it is more honorable to die trying and fail than to be 90 years old in a diaper in a hospital room and die that way.
Average, basically.
Yeah.
But I believe like suffering is, you can experience it either way. It's like the whole thing of, choose your hard. Like, it's hard being broke. Everyone knows that. You can't purchase food, you can't travel, you can't do anything. It's hard being broke. But it's hard getting rich as well. Though it's both hard, one just has a much better outcome. So in my thinking, it's like getting rich is the easier path. Becoming a multi-millionaire is much easier than being broke, because the outcome is like both is painful, but like the outcome of the one is better, so it's actually easier. It's the more logical path. Getting jacked is easier than being fat.
Yeah,
you see what I mean?
I think people just struggle to take that first step because they don't know it. And like I think it's Hormozy that says there is no, the past doesn't seem so painful because there is no uncertainty.
It's like only in hindsight, and you can only connect the dots looking back. It's
exactly
all,
it's all the same thing.
As soon as you get a taste of the
freedom, you're unemployable.
well, as soon as you take the red pill, right, you can't go back. But it's like, as soon as you dip your toe in the reality of burdening suffering for someone else and getting that feeling, it's impossible to want to go back to anything else, because you'll feel like it's almost like a deep sense of unsatisfaction, or like it's almost like fuck, I know I'm meant for more, like I can't not do nothing, right? Yeah.
I would also say that like I think one of the worst things that can potentially happen to you is being like extremely ambitious, but not like being disciplined enough to act upon it.
That must be hell.
The reason I say that is kind of like what you were talking about, because like you're in this state where you've tasted some success and you know you want to do something, but like for some reason you're just not doing it.
I would say majority of people out there have a goal. They think they're ambitious. I mean, I could argue and say ambitious comes down to, you know, having a dream, but also like your vigorous like action taking behind it as well, right? But let's say someone has a dream and that they know, like, how would you go about cultivating the other side, which is taking action?
Take action.
Just take action.
Just do it.
I hate to say,
what's the secret sauce, bro? Come on.
No, I hate to say. I made like a LinkedIn post about this, and in The Matrix, there's this like line where like these guys are like fighting, and like Morpheus says to Neo, he's like, "Stop trying to hit me and just hit me," right? And it's this thing of like, instead of like going through the actions or like doing what even like if you look at like Chris Williamson and Alex Hormozi, there was like a clip that went viral of them, and they were just like, preparing for the work is not doing the work. Thinking about the work is not doing the work. Pretending to do the work is not doing the work. Like, you just have to do it, and that's like the unfortunate truth. And I think that the point is that like, that's the only thing that's going to get you there. And so it's unfathomable to be like, how do you, like, if you know that's the only thing that's going to get you there and you still don't do it, like, you're not made for it, like, just stop. Like, I'll be honest, like, if you can't just like act, you know, then maybe it's not meant for you. But point being though, like, once you take action, you can write your life, you know?
Yeah, it's simple, not easy, right?
It's simple, not easy.
And I mean, I truly believe a good way to look at that is potentially trying to remove the friction to take the action. And I think that's what part of like mentorship and like affirmation, visualization, all these stuff is essentially just supposed to reduce the friction between you and doing the thing. Like, if you don't do the thing, then all the other stuff is useless, right? And I think that the main lever you can pull that will reduce that friction the most is to completely alter your immediate environment to only promote that which you want to do or to take action for, which could be arguing, or which could be just remove everything else, like just remove games, alcohol, like everything is holding you back, and only pay attention to the things that will take you closer to the goal, and surround yourself with people that are either taking action already or also want to take action. Obviously, the one that's already taking action would be better. That's why I think the people that you surround yourself with is everything, bro. And for me, for a long time, that was just reading great people, great mentors, right? And then being like, fuck yeah, like I can do this as well.
Biographies are great.
Yes. I think it's very unfortunate though that for a lot of young people these days, maybe not so in like most of South Africa, maybe in a bit more of the liberal areas, but definitely around the world, especially in the West and SF where we were, there's very much this push towards pulling people away from judging based on these status signals which come from taking action. So for example, everything from us getting into YC to you being fit, to you making a lot of money, to you having a good car, or getting a badge of some kind, these are all things that only come once you take action, right? And yet there's a lot of sort of social pushes now, or like pressure on the fact that we shouldn't judge people based on whether they're fat or thin or healthy. We shouldn't judge people based on whether they've made a lot of money or not.
So what's the point of that? Like, what person in the right mind can justify an idea like that?
I to be honest, I think it's just coming from a point of it's atheism.
And
I think is what it comes from. Yeah.
And like, it's almost like you are forcing your own lack of results on someone else because you're insecure.
I think that's the biggest thing.
How would you say atheism?
You mean like postmodernism?
Postmodernism,
yeah. I definitely think it comes from like it's kind of like he said. It's like the reason that these things are idealized is because there's an aspect of suffering to it, right? Yeah. It's like that's like the main thing. But it's like the people who don't want to do that, like that go through that suffering and get there, will create these rules to.
It's okay if you don't want to do it, but don't try and devalue don't try and devalue other people trying to do it.
Yeah, it's like this. Like it was pretty cool. Like one of the companies, Adam's favorite company in our batch, they like created these sweaters that were called like "The World Needs More Billionaires," right? Because there was like this whole thing on Twitter about like, oh, you know, like there's these oligarchs in tech and they like make too much money, and it's like that's like a YC kind of like says, like, you know, you need to go through the suffering and like build something that people want and like build something that's extremely valuable, and if you become a billionaire during that, like, you deserve it, right?
Because like who said it's like Jeff Bezos, he said like, don't look at my net worth, look at the value
I've created for others,
my shareholders and people. I think he created like trillions of dollars in value. See, like, you know, if you're a billionaire, you're actually a very, very good guy. You know, imagine not having Amazon or like, you know, not having instant delivery. Like that created so much value in the world. Of course you should be a billionaire.
Yeah, it's like, I think Elon said it, it's like you get paid in proportion to the value that you bring to other people.
With the difficulty of problems you solve.
Yeah, something like that as well, yeah.
And to come back to the previous point as well, it's like there's no point in holding onto a desire if you are not willing to pay the price to get it, or to go through, or to do it, right? And so I think part of that entire movement you spoke about, Adam, comes down to people sort of like criticizing other people willing to go through that sort of friction or whatever to get the thing. And then they just criticize people for that. Yeah, I think it's a weak mindset. And like there's no good society that's able to be built upon something like that.
We haven't really said this, but we're not claiming to like know all the answers.
No.
We're
With what?
the story that we can tell is like dropouts from England and South Africa.
Yeah.
Immigrants getting into a really prestigious university type startup accelerator that we probably shouldn't, like, that none of our type are ever going to be at.
My teachers literally probably would have thought I would have ended up on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah, like I even told Quentin, like, if you think of sales, I would be lost on the list.
Yeah.
Now I talk to
Terrible and Mondelunge.
And
like
so,
thousands of people.
yeah.
So
The point being, like, look, we're claiming to tell the story that we have so far, and we're going to figure things out from here.
Of course.
But I would just say that in terms of like the taking action side of things, this was something that I really struggled with for a long time. But it really just came down to like a dichotomy for me. It's like, I don't know who said this, but like the pain of staying the same.
Yeah.
Like, is that going to be greater than the pain of change? And from that, like, what do you actually want? Figure out what you actually want, and then don't be relentless in it. Like, don't compromise on it.
I really think that, like that, determination. I think Sam Altman said this, way more valuable than like IQ. Like that, you know, in school, like that's all you know. It's like, shit, he did better at me at maths, I'm a failure at life, you know, because that's all you know. But then you get out of school, you're like, okay, IQ doesn't matter at all. Oh, well, it does to a certain point, like if you want to become a billionaire or whatever, but like above like 110 or so, like you're fine. And it all really comes down to is grit and determination. That's it. So like, you know, even though you didn't do good in school, like I was always very motivated in the gym, like, you know, always there. It doesn't matter like what, the day, rain, what doesn't matter. That's determination, grit. And that's way more valuable than IQ, especially in business.
I think for young boys especially, physical fitness is probably the easiest place to start if you're struggling with taking action.
100%.
Yeah.
My entire take on that was always, if I can't get my physical vessel to be in a healthy place, how the hell am I going to be able to do anything else? Like just think about what you're signifying to the world on a foundational level when you don't have your own physical, but like you are almost, I mean, there's always exceptions, right? Like Elon Musk is not in good shape. Am I saying he doesn't have the dedication, right? But I think to a large degree, you are showcasing a form of respect to everyone else, to yourself and to everyone else if you are healthy, right? And it's the easiest place to start. It's the fastest feedback loop. It's like, you want to build a great business? Well, first get in shape, bro. Like, then you learn so much. Andre and I first hit the gym and then we got rich. or like in pursuit of that, right? So
I actually got pushback. I don't want to say the name because we all know him, and he said that, why would he go to the gym if he can just spend more time on building a company and solving big problems? Why do you want to look good? It's like ego, you know what I mean?
I mean, I think on the end of the day it comes down to your goal, right? I want to live the life of a good man, right? And it's a macro thing. It's like a holistic thing. It's like you're not doing this for someone else. Like building a vessel is not to indicate to someone else that, oh, look at me, I look great, whatever.
It's like
I mean, well, if you lean into it, there's obviously an aspect to that. But like, I mean, I'm doing that for the sake of my own form of sanity. Like, it's like what the fuck?
You want
like
proof,
you got
you want
this
proof that you can fall back on.
Yeah,
Like, that's what I always thought. Is like, okay,
well, that's a good point.
I can't control like how much I'm gonna, you know, how many customers are gonna walk through the door this month. I can control like,
How much I
okay,
make.
yeah, some along those lines. It's like, what are the inputs that you can actually control and focus on those? That's all you can do.
I want a strong, healthy vessel that I can show up for the people in my life for. If you are not a healthy, well, I guess so. But I mean, if you don't have a healthy vessel, how are you going to show up in the time of need? How are you going to carry across if you can't pick it up, bro? Like, you need to have energy, you need to have clarity, you need to be able to think well. Like, how I look at it is, I'm looking after my vessel. Indirectly, I'm looking after my clients as well, because I can think clearly, I can convey ideas better. It's not just about the physical like manifestation of muscles and stuff. It's about the inside, like, healthy cognitive functioning of my brain, right? Imagine just chowing seed oils all day.
You can do both.
No. Seriously though, I think it's a good point, because I think like when we started going to the gym when we were like 15 or whatever, it was like, at least for me, it was my first ever like witnessing like truly cause and effect taking into place, right? Like you doing something and an outcome coming from it. And like, for example, when I was 15, every single morning, like before school at like 5:30 a.m, go to the gym, right? Because I didn't have time to do it after school, since I'd be either working at my parents' restaurant or we had like homework and stuff. And so it was kind of like my first mission, right? It was like, I have this goal, I'm gonna achieve it, and I know I can achieve it, because if I do, if I like progressively overload, we build muscle.
Yeah.
And I think having something like that is super important. And I think going back to like what Isaac said about having something to fall back on, Alex Mosey has a really good quote about this. It's like, when you slay a dragon, it's like you have the confidence that you can slay the one, like a bigger one the next time, right? Because you have like the past to look back onto you. And I think that's super important. It's like consistently like challenging yourself to conquer new feats allows you to know like the next summit is not too big for anything.
What did he say? He said you already survived your worst day ever on Earth. Something like that. Like, if you think about it, like you probably in your lifetime you faced your worst day ever. You surpassed that. That's already.
That's really good.
And even if you could be like 5 years old, like in that time frame, like you probably had a worst day ever. You surpassed that. That's something to fall back on.
Yeah. What's the worst that could happen?
I think the worst thing that can happen is not taking a risk. Honestly, that's the biggest risk. Especially like I talk with so many South Africans, like a lot, and they're scared to take a risk. And I'm like, not taking a risk is a bigger risk.
Yeah.
Like you're the youngest you'll ever be, no responsibility.
You are by extension going to take a risk.
No, you're taking a risk right
you
now.
You are
the bigger one actually.
Yeah, you're betting against the future. You're betting against AI. Like how? That's a tremendous risk. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end it. Camera, I think one of the cameras is already dead, but I think this was an exceptional conversation, and I'm very grateful that you guys decided to hop on, and I'm excited to see where you guys end up. And I'm grateful to be able to walk the journey with you guys. And it's cool. I think within the next 200 episodes, you guys could jump back on, or maybe even earlier. But then there would be some new manifestation of the hard work that you guys are putting in. So yeah, thanks so much for jumping on.
I would have slept some more by then.
Cool, boys. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. There we go.
Cool.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Alrighty, gents. That was amazing.